Hey guys, welcome to another episode of the Experience Southern Illinois podcast. I am one of your hosts, Jared with So Ill Cinema, joined with my co-host,
Allison Hassler with Southern Illinois Vacation Rentals.
And today is a very special podcast for us. Allison, do you want to explain why?
I do. The reason why we're here, I'm very excited about it. We are going to be interviewing all of the 12 wineries on the Shawnee Hills Wine Trail, starting with the very oldest, very oldest, working our way to the very newest.
Yes. And so that brings us, Paul, do you want to introduce yourself? I just gave away your name, but.
Well, I can do the last. Yes. I'm Paul Renzaglia and part of the family. A member of the family that started Alto Vineyards, it's over 35 years ago.
Awesome. And so that's where we're at today. Where is Alto Vineyards for anybody who's never heard of this or this area?
Yeah, we're kind of out there a little bit, but we're located just inside Alto Pass and the little village of Alto Pass, which is south of Murfreesboro, maybe 12 miles, and 18 miles from Carbondale, and closer than that from Anna. So we're kind of out there, but easily accessible because we're right on the highway.
Yes. Yeah, right off the road. And there's, as far as the wine trail goes itself, there's quite a few wineries within kind of throwing distance from here. Because we've got Peach Barn right over here in the backyard as well, too.
And Von Jakob just up the road, and Hedman's, well, it was a Peach Barn. It was Hedman's before the Peach Barn. But we when we first started in 82, 83, we were the only ones here. And then they kind of developed around us. 2-3 wineries came in, and then it just grew to what it is now. So we're as a wine trail in pretty close proximity to all the other wineries. So it's really a 1 to 2 day visit.
So take us back. You said 83 is when this got started here. So what led to, now, and correct me if I'm wrong, your father, Guy, was the one who started the winery here. What led him to, he was already doing it on his own, or?
Yeah, well, he retired from SIU maybe a couple years before he had this idea. So he was already 65 years old, and he thought, maybe we should do a vineyard. And of course, at that time, that was a really hard to believe venture to do.
It was brand new. You're not following in any footsteps at that point, or your dad isn't.
Yeah.
Wow.
And that was his nature. Basically, I just followed along with this rather crazy idea. And not only, a lot of people were trying to figure out why somebody would think to grow at that time it was 10-acre vineyard here
in Southern Illinois.
In Southern Illinois, yes. And his family, there's 7 of us kids, we're all kind of scratching our heads. What did they think it? But his personality was such that people. Well, he had a drive that very few people had, and he didn't want to retire from doing, retire and do nothing. And he was also very much an outdoors kind of guy, gardens. We always had grape arbors wherever we lived. And he loved getting dirty and sweaty and that kind of stuff. And you really have to love it to do a vineyard. You have to love to be dirty and sweaty. He just thought, let me reinvent who I am in my life and got into this.
So I have a question, because I'll throw out my age first. So that's the year that I was born, 83. So I'm 41 years old as of this recording. So I'm going to ask you, how old were you when your dad started this venture, and for you to be, and I would understand as a maybe teens or 20s, I'm not sure how old you were, but like scratching my head thinking, what's going on here, and do I want to be involved? Do I want to skip town? Let me I want to hear about what was going through your head at that time.
Well, at that time, beyond the kind of disbelief that he would do this, that I was working in Chicago, and I came back to go to graduate school. I was 32, I needed a place, and I had a little house here on the site. I rented that house when I was going to school, and one of actually there were three people that were two others besides my father, and he worked with them at Touch of Nature, and he directed that for a couple of years there. And they all brought kind of their own expertise to this venture, which was really a smart thing that they did. And I came here and rented the house, and then one of the partners said, "This is way too much work," and there wasn't much money in it either. He says, "It still isn't all that much," but anyway, he says, "I can't. I've got a young family, and I just can't." They were working every weekend besides working. So he said, I've got to get out of this. So I happened to be here, and they were looking for somebody to help. So that's when I got in. I probably got involved in about 84. So anyway, yeah, it was at that time it was just the vineyard. We had no real ideas about a winery or what we were going to do with all the grapes that we grew. Yeah, it just kind of worked out that way for me. I just happened to be back here, and they needed somebody to help with what they were doing.
So this is pre-YouTube days. Like right now, if there's something I don't know how to do, I can go on to YouTube. How are you guys troubleshooting stuff?
Yeah, I say to most people, if you want to learn what to do, we can tell you. If you want to learn what not to do, it's even more important.
We've got stories.
We made a lot of mistakes when it was all just we kind of learned as we went. But one thing that was nice is that now the Illinois wine industry was relatively large at that, so there's some resources.
Yeah.
Not enough in my opinion, but probably everybody says that. But you couldn't get information within Illinois. Missouri was pretty well established back when we started this. So we knew, or he knew, I didn't know at the time, that grapes could be grown in this area. And depending on the variety, you had to be selective what you could grow. But so there was kind of that out there that the Midwest does have a wine industry and a grape industry. So we were able to utilize Missouri, conferences, workshops, all those kind of things that helped a lot. In fact, when I first started making the wine in '88, I worked with a consultant in Missouri who was over the Missouri wine industry. He was an enologist for them. And so I was able to access that information from him because I knew nothing. And anyway, so we did. We made a lot of mistakes and still haven't got it right.
Figured it out.
Still don't figure it out. And the more you know you don't know. So anyway, yeah, it's been a real experience.
So I'm doing quick math, which I may regret this later, but it's been 41 years then, 42, coming up on 42 years that you guys...
Well, when the vineyard was planted, we went 5 years before we did the winery. So, and like I said before, that I don't think, my father had ideas and he would jump right into them, but I remember the first year I was with because it takes about 3 years, 4 years for grapes to produce fruit. And so we had to sit on, just doing the work in the vineyard for 4 years with no, possibilities of return of any kind. And then even the returns are just basically pay for the vineyard, anyway, so he planted 10 acres. And the first year they produce is when I got involved. And so we're sitting there, and he always believed, well, since we're the first in Southern Illinois, the first vineyard, people will rush here to buy grapes. And so don't you have to establish a market? You're going to... So we had our first harvest, we had about 8 tons, which isn't much, but it's a lot, but it's not that much to what it produces now. And we're going... what do we do with these grapes? You know, we didn't have the winery, and we didn't really make contact with some of the wineries in Missouri. And up north, there were about 3 or 4 wineries up around the Chicago northern part of the state. So that first year, we ended up having a pickup truck by the highway with, you know, lugs of grapes for sale. And of course, we didn't sell any, but so he didn't really think that far ahead about what. And but we established relationships with Linford Winery up north and a few other wineries. So we were able to sell the grapes that we produced. And the quality was good. And this is really a good Midwestern area to grow grapes, actually. The Shawnee Hills in particular. So we established a market, but not to the degree that, you know, because when they're fully producing, they were producing 35, 40 tons of grapes. So we needed to do something other than that. So that's when we decided, you know, we got to do a wine or a smaller wine for.
So what year was that when you opened the winery?
1988, yeah, in December of 88. And I think we started out producing about 1,500 gallons, which is a small one. And, but since we were the first, and there'd been a lot of publicity about these crazy people up in the hill in Alto Pass, you know, growing grapes. So we had a lot of articles about kind of along our journey. And so we sold out.
That's free advertising. That's
it was
great.
wonderful. I mean, yeah, because we also had a little bit of a political struggle here in this little town, which everything worked out fine. But there was about a year and a half that we had to just not convince so much, but assuage some of the people here in town that we're not going to be like a bar on the outskirts of Alto Pass. So that took a while, and we did a lot of discussions and meetings with the local residents, and but that turned out well because I think they realized that we weren't, you know, intending to do any harm to the area. But anyway, so the winery was a little bit of a struggle to get because they had Alto was actually voted dry back in the 70s that they did not want any alcohol here. So we had to ask for a referendum who would allow us to do it. That turned out the village voted in our favor, and so that kind of kicked off the winery itself. But yeah, we just had no idea. My father always said, make sure this thing we build can be converted to a house, just in case the winery doesn't. I said, okay. So anyway, we had no idea what was going to happen. So, but it was exciting.
So we're not sitting in the original.
No.
I remember sitting in the original in probably 2005, I would say. I had taken my parents here, and it was the middle of winter, and you had some nice space heaters and things because it was a little chilly in that time period. It was a great space, though, beautiful and cozy. This is totally different what you have now. So can you talk about when you opened the new winery that we're sitting in now? And it's a really unique design. I want you to talk about how what conversations you had about that design.
Yeah. At that time, we've had this building probably 9-10 years now. So it's back in 2015. And we only had that small place over there where you really didn't have an indoor seating. And I mean, the outside has always been nice. You could sit if the weather's good. So we were missing a lot. And then the wineries were starting to build and develop. And there was a lot of money going into some of these wineries. And they had these really nice open areas where people could sit. Anyway, so we saw a lot of the tourism buses, you know, pass us by because they offload their bus, and if it's wintertime, it can't hardly even fit into the building that we have. So I started thinking we needed to enlarge it for other purposes, for events and things like that. So that's kind of what drove that decision. But I do remember when we were building this, that one of our customers came in and said, Noel was over there at that time, but we were building this, Billy. He says, "Are you opening a Toyota dealership?" I said, no, it's going to be a winery, but looks rather like a car dealership. But anyway,
Was he referring to the flat top? The
well,
flat
that and just the outside looked at it. That's it had to re-sided because that didn't work. But anyway, it did look rather. I don't know what the term
Commercial?
is. Commercial. Non-inviting. But anyway, yeah, that's why we ended up doing that.
Yeah, because that upstairs deck is awesome. I've sat up there before enjoying a glass of wine, but then you have one down here as well too. You've got like almost like a not a pasture, but like just kind of like that area going down as well too. You've got like a stage down there. You do live music during
Yes.
during when it's not so cold.
Yeah. I mean, that's what. Yeah, our events here, but now there are so many going on now in our place with the wine trail and stuff, and it's wonderful because it brings more people. But yeah, we used to draw 1,500, 2,000 people to a weekend event if the weather was good.
Yeah.
And it was all over there and with the deck over there and all that. But now we're sharing it, which is good with all the other wineries, and I think we're certainly drawing more people with all of us together, working together. So, but yeah, it's come a long way since we first started this thing. So.
That's a great segue. We're going and talking to every single winery on the Shawnee Hills Wine Trail. And so you guys being the first one established, what was that like seeing you go from being by yourselves on this lone island to now, we're sitting with 12 wineries on this wine trail, and you've got a whole community. I've got to sit in one of your meetings. You've got a whole community of people that you can, you talked about how you didn't have very many resources in the beginning, and it's now you've got a whole table, multiple tables full of people that are doing the exact same thing that you're, doing differently, obviously, but in the same kind of world, and it's got to help. It
does. I mean, initially we were just trying to figure out, and speaking of Pomona and George, they came over, maybe he and his wife, but his mate, Jane, came over and said they were thinking about doing a winery. It's a year or so after we had opened, and we were excited about that. And then it just kind of popped into existence, little pockets of people that were interested in doing this. And initially, I think people started realizing that there's a place in Southern Illinois for this industry, and now in the whole state of Illinois, it's pretty remarkable. I never viewed it as competition ever. I had good relationships with all the other wineries. Now I was out for a little while, and I came back, and that was the first meeting that you were at that I attended in probably 8 years. But it felt good. It felt good to see some of the old timers that we worked all together.
Well, and it's cool to see you all working together, but then also doing things very different as well too, and having your own characteristics and unique things about each winery. What do you think kind of separates you guys from some of the other wineries in this area?
Yeah, that's a very good question. Being in our area, we have some limits as to what we can grow, we can produce out of the soils because of our climate, because of we could certain varieties, but there's a limit, and that makes it. I mean, one thing we didn't want was homogenization of everybody, but also a lot of people most people in this had never done anything like this before. So, and they came to us because we had done it. And like I said, we could tell them what not to do. Anyway, but it was that kind of relationship. That's the way it's always been, I think, for the most part in that way. But that makes it a little bit. So they would see what we did and which ones, and they would make similar. I'm not getting stealing from us, but again, we're limited with certain varieties, and it's only so many we can grow and produce from. George, the promoter, was smart. You said apples. I don't want any grapes. And now Owl Creek has the apple
Apple knockers.
Yeah, there it is. And he's doing all of that, and I think we may see more of that happen because we do want those distinctions. I think, but we all make them different ways. The same grape is made a little different. So
Well, I know not all of them do live music. You guys do. I've been in here when you guys have had live music and stuff like that, and you guys have a shop up here in the front as well too. And it is. They all feel a little different. Some feel more downhill, probably like the original one that you had. They're still in that stage and stuff. So, but yeah, tell us a little bit. We've got some of your wine here sitting in front of us. Would you mind doing it? Could we do some tasting here?
Yeah, absolutely, yes. And I picked 3, kind of a variety.
Yeah, tell us
of
about
what we
it.
produce. The one of those would be the Vignole, which is my favorite of the white grapes that we can grow relatively well. It has some real issues in our wet climates. So you don't get a lot of yield from it, but it's a beautiful full-bodied grape. Has a lot of different flavors, a lot of tropical flavors to it, a lot of peach, a lot of things like that. That really, I believe, and I think a lot of people do, that this is one of the best of the white grapes that we can grow. So we can taste that one, and we kind of make it, and most do, a little sweet because it's got higher acids. So you want to kind of balance the acidity with a little bit of sweetness. This doesn't have a lot, but just enough to kind of balance there. And we'll try that one first, and then this would be our bread and butter.
Yeah.
This is actually the Black and Blush, and it's made from, we make a blush style Concord, sweeter. So we just blended blackberry with our Concord blush and came up with a Black and Blush. And there's also another famous wine out there called Black and Blue that we kind of thought that was a pretty good idea. Well, you're on the irony of that from Fresnel, because I know those as well. That I made the original Black and Blue out of some people brought some blackberries they had frozen, they picked, and some blueberries they needed to get rid of. I said, well, yeah, I'll try it. So I tried to blend those two and make this Black and Blue, and it didn't turn out very well. But so I said I'm not going to do that. But anyway, they did it at Pheasant Hollow, and they were quite successful, and still are the thing. So anyway, we're trying to get them back. Anyway, but it's a sweeter style, very aromatic there. And then this is our doghouse.
Oh, what a Saluki on.
We're trying to, anyway, and I think all my family and all my brothers and sisters and all my daughters have graduated from SIU, including myself. I had to put a little more effort into it. But anyway, so I thought it was nice. But this is a blend of like our Chambourcin, which has a red grape, and I think it also is probably the premium red grape that we can grow here. So I've always liked the Chambourcin very much, along with the Vignole too as a white. But anyway, so we do a slight blend. We also make a 100% Chambourcin dry style oak aged wine. This one is kind of a in between. It's not, you can't taste the sweetness, and you might feel a little bit of it. But it's more drinkable. In our area, not a lot of wine snobs, let's say, in our area. So we tend, I think all of us tend to make wines a little bit sweeter, just to kind of introduce maybe wines to those that don't drink a lot. But this would be a nice like dinner wine, something with heavier meats. But those are the 3 that.
Awesome.
So, you want me to
Let's give them a try. So we're trying these out, and which one are we starting off with again?
This is the Vignole, which, as I talked about earlier, I think it is really a fine grape and makes a really nice wine. And typically, and I may have already said this, we have to balance the acidity of this one with a little bit of sweetness, and you don't often find a dry vigneron, not very often, anywhere that I've seen. Most of them tend to be sweeter. But, I mean, you get all kinds of, I get a lot of,
It is tropical. You said tropical earlier, and I definitely picked that up.
and there's some citrus in there. I mean, it's just got, it's what I would consider really a much more complexity than, I'll say, like the Vidal, which it's nice enough wine. But this one, I think, just offers so many different flavors and aromas.
It's delicious.
Yeah, no,
So you had mentioned earlier about how we do have really good soil that is conducive for grapes. So can you just kind of give a very basic reason or basic overview of the reasons why Southern Illinois, and very particularly this area south of Murfreesboro, southeast of Carbondale, southwest of Carbondale, is a really great space that is conducive for grape growing?
Yeah, no, that's a very good question, and I'll go back to that we are limited in the Midwest here, and what grapes would grow well. So we have, and that's why, and many may know this, many may not. The French American hybrids are primarily what most of the vineyards and wineries use here and in our area, because we can't grow well Cab Sauv, Zinfandel, Chardonnay, the kinds you find in California and Europe, which limits us a little bit about what we can grow and produce here. And one thing about our site, and particularly if I was going to pick a site, and Missouri has a lot of the same similar soils, and they have areas there they grow really good fruit. And it's not that you can't grow them up in central Illinois and even up north. In fact, along the Lake Michigan, on the Michigan side, they can grow Chardonnays. They can grow vinifera there because they have a that lake moderates. You don't get those high swings and low swings that we get here, and that's the most. That is keeping us from growing a lot of those type of wines.
So it's not just the soil, it's the weather, climate, and the swings that we get in the fall and the spring.
Yes, so that's the primary thing. And one thing about like here and a lot of the Shawnee Hills, we're a little higher elevation. In fact, the Cross up here is the second highest elevation in Illinois. The highest is around Galena up there. But that elevation also moderates a lot of the more extreme colds, but only to a point. And that's why apples and peaches were grown here too, same reason. So if you're up higher, you don't get a lot of those frosts will tend to go onto the lower ground. Water drainage is very important. That's hillside vineyards. They don't like wet heat, as they say. But we also have more porous soils up here, which are actually placed here primarily when the glaciers came through in Mississippi, and a lot of that wind-blown soil, which tended to be more silty, sandy soil. Mm-hmm. So we have a layer of that here, and the Shawnee Hills has much more of that. So that helps. Grapes don't like, a lot of really super, what's the term I'm trying to think of? Not healthy, but they, vigorous soil, soils that are good for corn or for that. Grapes don't necessarily need that or like that so much. So those sandy, rocky soils are where some of the, I think, finest wines are made and grown. So we do have that in the Shawnee area, and I think that helps with the quality of our grapes here. So
awesome. So I want to get into the next bottle as well too, but I also want to talk about these awards that you have up here behind us. So Can you explain where you got these from, and what are some of the awards, accolades you guys have gotten over time?
Yeah, I mean we've been lucky in that respect, and we've been here the longest for Southern Illinois, so we're obviously going to accumulate more than some of the younger ones. But
Sure.
Anyway, but we've gotten the Governor's Cup here, and their awards have really shrunk in the. Sorry, anyway, that's wonderful. We're happy very much, and we won the Jefferson Cup, which is a pretty prestigious competition, twice. I've got best winemaker in the state twice.
Awesome.
It's been a little while, but anyway, so I think, and those things to me just tell me I'm on the right track more than and I feel good. I clearly feel good when we get awards on them, but people don't necessarily care. This has to be something they like, and I agree with that. But yeah, I've been very happy with what we've.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Well, and beyond the awards, I mean, every time I come in here, it seems like Sunday afternoon, you guys are packed in here. You guys have live music going, and the awards probably feel nice, but having people in here all the time enjoying your product and enjoying the experience that you provide here is probably second to none.
Oh no, that's the most important thing.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think that we've been lucky in a lot of ways, and I think the area has really benefited from this industry developing the way it has. So I'd like to see that too. I mean, that's important, and we hope that continues and we can keep them coming.
Yes, absolutely.
Absolutely.
All right, so what are we doing next year?
This is our Black and Blush, and this is more of a dessert style here, but it's got a blend of our light Concord blush with a blackberry wine. And it's very aromatic. Concord is you cannot not know it's Concord, and it has a very distinct. Actually, one of our first wines was a Heartland Blush that we made here, and that one was our most popular for years, and still is popular. And
So this has beat out the Heartland Blush?
well, on site it does. Yeah, we do distribute, and it does a little, not quite as well as the Blackton distribution, but yeah.
That's a high bar to...
It has, and I didn't think that could happen either. So, and I said it before. I think that our palates here and Southern, not all at all, but tend to be toward the sweeter. This one, I mean.
Is this like a semi-sweet or?
No, this is
sweet. You said dessert, yeah.
Yeah, this is sweet. This one is, and and it's great if somebody that doesn't like the dry and likes to drink wine. It's good.
Yes.
So
I can tell how much my palate has changed in the last 20 years that I've lived here. And I say, well, I used to drink Heartland Blush, but I've really graduated to like the Vignole or, so they just changed a lot over the years. And so I already knew that this was going to be sweet. But boy, that was very popular 20 years ago when I was here. And, 10 years ago, I was probably drinking the Vignole, and then most recently, I would say the Vignole, and what I'm very excited about trying now because I stick to the Chambersons quite a bit.
Yeah, and I think that's a pretty common, pattern, isn't it, for people that like wine, is to kind of work their way.
But it's delicious.
Yes.
This is, I mean, you don't need desserts. Yeah, well, this one, sometimes I won't go into that, but yeah, it'd probably be good on pancakes too, is what I'm thinking. So.
Over ice cream.
Yes, and I also, and like you said, I think a lot of people probably start out that way. I was in a Moscato phase for a long time,
yeah.
And then I was like, all right, I need to try maybe something semi-sweet, and it is like over time you do that. So I want to preface, especially since this is our first winery podcast that we're going to put out. We are not wine aficionados by any means.
Well, either am I.
Yeah. But this is delicious. This is
it's easy to drink, and
this is great.
yeah, I think and this here turned out.
Do you make slushies with this?
Yeah. Oh, yes. Yeah, we do. It's,
I was gonna say this could be a great slushy summer drink right there.
Yes.
It's just some
delicious.
ice.
Yeah.
So when you make one like the Black and Blush, how do you determine if you keep doing it the next year?
Yeah. It would be, well, for one thing, it should taste good.
Yes. Yeah. Let's start there.
That would be my
If you like
my
it,
issue. Right? That's right. I guess. But yeah, I mean, it's in the market, and you know, we can tell year to year. You can't always predict by any means what's going to sell well and what may not so well. But in this, just like the Art and Blush, we know that's going to, you know, have a market for it, and we discovered this one as being a
Which this is the Doghouse Red.
Doghouse Red, yes. And this one is made from mostly Chambourcin.
Okay.
And it's a blend. And trying to think of what, I think we may have added a little bit of, we've gotten sometimes we have to, like Cab Franc. If it's not made here, we might get a little bit just to blend into it. And I believe this has a little of that in there too.
I love that art on that bottle.
Yeah,
That is awesome.
that was a silkworm.
Silkworm. Okay, awesome. Shout out to Silkworm, a local graphic design.
Yes, and they're quite good.
They're great.
But this one isn't as dry probably as the Chambourcin, but it's a little lighter red. But I think it would go really well with meals, and that's something that I think that you do too. You drink more wine, you start to appreciate what one's good better with foods.
yes.
Wow.
I like that.
Yeah, that's very nice. Very smooth.
Yeah. No, and I think that little bit of sweetness kind of, you know, takes away that.
So would this be considered a semi-sweet then?
Yeah, probably a semi. It could be a semi-dry. Or
Do you know how they determine the semi-sweet, sweet, dry?
no, not specifically. But you go to California, anything that's probably above 0.5% alcohol. I'm sorry, residual, reducible sugars, is a semi-sweet. This is probably around 1%, and I would consider this semi-dry. I would.
Okay.
You go out there and they would.
That was a
say
category I didn't even
semi-sweet.
know about. I knew semi-sweet, sweet, and dry, but semi-dry.
Semi-dry. But those are all real confusing terms. I hesitate to use them, but I think with our market being a little sweeter, I'm sorry, then this would be in most people's minds maybe a semi-dry.
Yeah.
So
It's kind of interesting the way that we describe wine. You know, you don't do that with like any juice or anything like that. And it's like, we're like, how do you describe this? This is semi-sweet. This is semi-dry, you know? And it's like, there's a little bit, I don't know. Like I said, as you get older, I feel like the semi-sweets stay sweet, you know, sometimes, stuff like that. And so your palate changes over time. It's a little bit, I don't envy the person who has to officially decide what's sweet, semi-sweet.
yes, that's probably because nobody's done that.
Yes.
So anyway, yeah, it's mostly just to educate maybe the people before they get it.
But you guys have a wide range here. This is just 3. How many do you have?
24?
24.
Wow.
Okay.
A lot more than I thought we would ever have. But
So
yeah,
it's a big variety.
A lot.
Wow.
And yeah, I think most of the wineries are, you know, have at least 12 or 14. So yeah, you try to find that niche for everybody. And it's also kind of fun to experiment. We try different things and see how that goes. So I'm getting too old for that, but younger people, I think there's a passion there that we need to have, was what I think.
Well, and I think you guys draw a lot of, you kind of mentioned this earlier, draw a lot of tourism down to Southern Illinois. And so you guys are kind of the ambassadors for Southern Illinois in a lot of situations, people coming down for the first time. what would you recommend people do when they come down here? If they're coming down here for the first time, what are some things that you would recommend they see if they're around Alto Vineyards? What do you recommend in this area?
Yeah. Well, the primary thing my wife and I always have done is the hiking. The hiking in our area is quite extraordinary, actually. So you have so many options with that. The cross up there, I think that's really. I mean, I would certainly recommend that somebody has not been here to go up on the mountain there and see that view and see the cross there. And of course, yeah, I'm trying to think offhand.
I mean, you go any direction, like you've got Rendleman Orchard.
Sure.
Here as well.
No, the Bizat. Yeah. We've got the bourbon bar in town. Have you been to that? Yes.
I mean, Alto Pass is like going through a renaissance right now. You guys were way ahead of your time. You guys were getting the ball rolling early.
I've been through a lot of those. Those spurts.
We started, it was dry. Now we've got a bourbon bar. We've got another winery over here, and all kind of what you talked about. You know, this isn't like a bar atmosphere or anything like that. Like, you're playing live music. People are having, conversations, meeting with old friends, and a lot of memories are made here. And so we are so honored, so blessed to be able to get to do this with you guys, especially with your family being the ones that started this, you being kind of there at the start of it as well too. It's a huge honor for us, because the wine trail was the first thing that I ever heard about in Southern Illinois, coming from Central Illinois to down here. And then I heard about the Shawnee National Forest afterwards, and just realized there's so much to draw people down here, so much that you can experience. And so you guys, in no small way, kind of started that ball rolling for the wine trails and stuff down here. And then for Alto Pass as well too, it's awesome to see. So,
And I came from the opposite end of that spectrum, from Central Illinois also. All I knew was Garden of the Gods, and that this was really great hiking space. So it wasn't until really maybe a couple years before I moved down in 2005 that I realized that there was a wine trail here, and that there was this whole other atmosphere to Southern Illinois that I didn't realize. And we talked about this a little bit off screen, but when you have talked to customers in the past, have you found the same thing where, they're down here for the wineries, but they had no idea the beauty and the nature and the experience that you can have over a weekend or during the week?
Yes. Oh, absolutely. Yeah, no, we see that all the time. And it's kind of ironic, even up in Central Illinois, we have a little outlet in the Champaign area, and so many of the people come there know nothing about that. I mean, you consider them part of Southern Illinois, but have no idea, 200 miles away, that there's a place you can experience a lot of stuff. I mean, it's just it's neat. So that introduction is really important, yes. And I'm hoping I don't work behind the bar or anything much anymore, but I'm hoping that, because when I was here, I made sure there were maps handed out and all. So that is, I think, critical to what we do here too.
I think so too.
Sure.
Before we wrap up, I have a speed round question for anybody that's never been here. Are you okay to just answer these boom, boom, boom questions?
Yeah, as long as you know.
Okay. No, I'm not. Okay. So coming in here, these are a lot of questions that I get asked by my guest coming in. So I'm just going to reverberate and see what your answers are. So, are you pet friendly?
Oh, yes.
Okay. So leash pets can come in and visit with the family.
And I have to say to that, and I don't know it was my son, but I've got four wines named after my dog. So yes, we are pet friendly.
Do you serve food?
Yeah, we have a light menu here, pizza, things like that, chicken salad, sandwiches. Yes.
Do you allow coolers? Because sometimes people bring in their own cheese and crackers.
Oh, no, that's fine. That's fine. No, it's the alcohol. That's the only thing that would be an issue. But other than that, absolutely.
Their own snacks and things?
Absolutely. Yes.
Great. And do you, what was my last one? I had another one.
These are great questions. Yeah.
While I'm thinking of it, handicap accessible.
Yeah.
Limited mobility?
Well, yes, we are. I mean, the only issue would probably be the deck. That would be the only issue. And, if we see that as...
But you have a beautiful patio. There's
Mostly beyond slow, absolutely. Yes. So the balconies are set up.
and I remember my last one. Are you child friendly?
We love it. It's a great question. Tell you get the good questions. Yeah.
For the first 10, while our children were growing up, because we don't have family around here, we were nomads. So wherever we went, our children went. So I already knew most of these questions, but I thought this would be a really great introduction.
I learned
You've
one
never
right
been.
there. Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's good. In fact, we have games and stuff out here for the kids. That's they want to play. Chess. See a lot of these younger people playing chess. I'm going, I could learn that from them. Could hear. Yeah. Anyway, yes. So that's, I think, the direction we want to go more into, and has always been a big part of what we are. Yes.
Awesome. Well, Paula, thank you so much for your time. Yeah. Thank you for telling us about how this got started.
I appreciate the opportunity. I haven't had to do something like this for...
This is going to be your big break. This is going to be your start right here. Yes. We'll see you. We'll see you on the news, on the international news there. So
Elmo talk show. Anyway, but no, we really, and that's something. I know I appreciate very much, and I think we all do, that you guys are doing this. So it's wonderful that you're doing this, and I think all of us are excited, and we know that we'll all benefit from it. So, anyway,
Great.
yeah.
thank you.
Thank you so much, Paul.
Yes, Paul. Thank you.